And now, let's go to the news and developments in Asia, particularly Philippines in relation to China. The first item is from Norman P. Aquino of Bloomberg, and this reports on the Chinese surge. Tourists from the mainland of China continue to flock to friendly Philippines. The Chinese traveler is discovering the Philippines as relations warm under President Duterte's so-called pivot to Asia or to China. The Chinese posted the fastest growth of 57.3% among the top 5 markets in May, with 73,649 arrivals, according to tourism agency data. They're not going just for the Southeast Asian nations' famed white sand beaches, but also for its casinos, as an anti-corruption drive in Macau sends gamblers to Manila. And so this seems to keep the campaign of President Duterte to bring 1 million Chinese tourists to the Philippines on track. And the same thing goes for trade. The Philippines' 5-month trade gains $4.3 billion on exports to China, Hong Kong, and Russia. Again, it seems to be fulfilling the promise of the pivot to China of President Duterte. Philippine trade volume in the first 5 months of 2017 gained $4.3 billion as a result of a 34% increase in exports to China, Hong Kong, and Russia. But that's primarily China and Hong Kong. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez said. Exports from January to May 2011 totaled $26.11 billion, up from $22.46 billion in the same period last year. Total trade in the 5-month period this year stood at $63.26 billion, according to the figures of the Philippine Statistics Authority. That is an over 200 billion peso gain in trade for this period, and particularly from the improved relations between the Philippines and China. Of course, this is a product or a fruit of the independent foreign policy. During the period, Chinese investors registered a purchase order for Philippine products worth $1.7 billion, which the DTI said exceeded the previous estimate it had made amid a surge in Chinese interest in the country. So that is good news from the independent foreign policy of President Duterte. Now we go on to this huge controversy the past week or two over the death of Liu Xiaobo, the so-called Nobel Peace Prize winner, who is very controversial, of course, in China. And this is a view from Curtis Stone, published by the People's Daily Online. Why not instead award father of hybrid rice the Nobel Peace Prize, asks Curtis Stone. Yuan Longping, the father of hybrid rice, is one of the strongest symbols of peace in China and across the world. Yet it was not this renowned Chinese scientist who was bestowed with the Nobel Peace Prize. It was Liu Xiaobo, a Chinese dissident. Quote, by awarding the Nobel Peace Prize to Liu Xiaobo, the Norwegian Nobel Committee wanted to underscore the fundamental connection between developing democracy and creating and securing peace, said Norwegian Nobel Committee Chair Berit Reiss-Andersen. That statement suggests a political motivation. Democracy is a powerful ideology that divides the world into two parts, with Western democracies on the good side and non-Western countries on the other side. People who subscribe to this ideology believe that Western democracies are superior to and generally more peaceful than any other regime time. This powerful ideology no doubt played a role in the Nobel Committee's decision. Chinese authorities argued that Liu Xiaobo had long engaged in illegal activities aimed at overthrowing the current government and undermining the current political system. and so on. Well, my vote is also for the scientist who created the rice surplus in China, Yuan Longping. We can discuss this a little with our guest, Ms. Mercy, but finally this item, which shows that China-U.S. relations continue on track through dialogue. This is from Foreign Policy, or rather from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which is one of the most instrumental think tanks of the United States. Joint U.S.-China think tank project on the future of U.S.-China relations. On July 6, CSIS hosted an event to release a major report on U.S.-China relations, written by a group of experts from some of America's leading foreign policy think tanks. The report is a product of a year-long effort in which American and Chinese experts prepared parallel reports with analysis and policy recommendations on several critical areas that shape the relationship: military relations, the Asia-Pacific region, economic relations, global governance, and domestic policies. The U.S. side's report, entitled Joint U.S.-China Think Tank Project on the Future of China, U.S.-China Relations, an American Perspective, and the Chinese side's China-U.S. Relations, Exploring a New Pathway to a Win-Win Partnership. Well, that just goes to show that dialogue promotes understanding despite the obstacles created by different perspectives. And I think that is what the bilateral talks between the Philippines and China over the China Sea issues is also all about. Well, we have a little time left. I wonder what item you would like to react to, Mercy, if any.
Well, first of all, of course, thank you for inviting me to your show. And the title itself, Journeys. I feel very much at home discussing with a fellow traveler like you. And well, what I can react from what I've seen is that it's very important for us to see what's happening in China and in Asia, because we're all fellow travelers in this road to peace and development.
Well, we named the show Journeys, and it's been we're now on our second year, because really Asia is defined by the travels overland, like the Silk Road, and across the China Sea amongst the ASEAN and China nations, Chinese nations. So thank you very much for your observation, Mercy. So let's take this break, and finally we'll have Mercy discuss the efforts of the, let's see, the Peace Women partners and the Stop the War Coalition, among others, like the International Strategy Center, on the issue of the THAAD, Thermal High Altitude Area Defense missiles that are being placed in South Korea. So stand by for that. We'll have Merci Angeles discuss and make her report on the activities in South Korea on the matter of the THAAD.